You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
Before this podcast kicks off, let's talk about goals. The Greatest Goal is a native tree crowdfunding campaign, leaving a legacy for Aotearoa New Zealand as co-hosts of the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023. Visit treesthatcount.co.nz to donate a native tree for a brighter future.
Football Fever with News Talk ZB's voice of football, Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen with Trees That Count. Donate a native tree and help us score the greatest goal.
Welcome into the weekend. Welcome into Football Fever, your daily World Cup podcast with treesthatcount.co.nz. I'm Jason Pine. Bonnie Jansen away for a couple of days, so not with us today on the podcast, but we do get the opportunity to get you inside the Football Ferns camp ahead of this massive game, probably the biggest game in Football Ferns history, tomorrow night in Dunedin when they take on Switzerland. Liv Chance with us out of the Football Ferns camp on the podcast today. Let's, though, first wrap the action from day 9 at the Women's World Cup, starting with an absolute cracker in Dunedin at lunchtime yesterday. Group G, South Africa 2, Argentina 2. Great game of football this. South Africa avoid defeat for the first time in a World Cup game and pick up their first point, but arguably it should have been all three for South Africa. They were leading 2-0 with about 15 minutes to go, but had to settle for the draw. Argentina scored twice within 5 minutes late in the second half. A superb half volley from Sophia Braun made it 2-1, and then off the bench, Romina Nunes headed in the equaliser. It finished at 2-2. Argentina stay winless at the tournament, although they do pick up a point. They haven't won any of their 11 Women's World Cup games in their history, Argentina, but they do stay alive in the tournament with the point they picked up in Dunedin. Sydney last night, Group D, England 1, Denmark 0, a second successive 1-0 win for England. They're the European champions, of course. That leaves them on the brink of making the knockout stages. They only need a point from their final game. Lauren James, what about this? Have you seen Lauren James's goal to win this for England? If you haven't, check it out online. She became England's second youngest goal scorer at the Women's World Cup. 21 years, 302 days to be precise. Superb strike from the edge of the box. Just 6 minutes into her first World Cup start. England had 71% possession, but really it was a bit lackadaisical from England. They didn't really put their foot on the throat of Denmark like many thought they would. More worryingly, the biggest talking point out of this, one of their key players, Barcelona midfielder Keira Walsh, went down in the first half with what looked like a pretty serious knee injury. No one was around her. She just went down, and all of a sudden it was all concern for Keira Walsh. We fear the worst when knee injuries occur. Let's hope it's not as bad as it first appeared. England, though, have kept another clean sheet. They've kept the most clean sheets in the Women's World Cup since the start of the 2019 tournament. 6 clean sheets in their last 9 games at the tournament. And to Adelaide last night in Group D, China 1, Haiti 0, Wang Shuang's penalty, giving China all 3 points and ending, get this, a 393-minute wait for a goal at the Women's World Cup. China played more than an hour with just 10 players. Rui Shang received a red card midway through the first half for a dangerous knee-high challenge on Haiti's Shirley Judy. This was a close game, really. A pretty good contest. China 54% possession, Haiti 46%. 8 shots to 7 in China's favour. The 2 to advance from this group, therefore, with China, Haiti, England and Denmark, won't be known until the final games are played on Tuesday evening at the Women's World Cup.
Football Fever Podcast with Trees That Count. Donate a native tree and help us score the greatest goal.
All right, a chance today, a rare chance to get inside the Football Ferns camp during the tournament, and we thank them very much for making this happen. Let's bring in Football Ferns attacker Liv Chance. Liv, welcome to the Football Fever podcast. Great to have you with us. How have you spent the last few days since the loss to the Philippines in Wellington as you prepare for this massive game against Switzerland in Dunedin?
Yeah, I think obviously the first day after, it's just about recovery and looking over the game and where we didn't get quite right, and just, getting back on the field now and fixing those firsthand on the pitch. So, yeah, it's been good. We're looking forward to Sunday.
What were the main takeaways out of the Philippines game?
The main takeaways, well, we didn't effectively get our game plan right. We wanted to create more quality chances. We didn't. We probably weren't calm on the ball enough, and we weren't able to change the point well enough. So I think it is really about getting those details right for Sunday.
After the game, a couple of players, I think Katie Bowen was one, Ellie Riley another, talked about the Philippines wanting it more. Do you believe that's a thing? I mean, do you believe you have or had the desire that night to get the result?
Yeah, I did personally. I think obviously I came on at half-time, and it was just about getting the win and about trying to create good opportunities for the players around me. And you know, I almost think that this team maybe wanted it too much. I think, you know, we had won the first game, and we knew that, you know, this was a game that we had already targeted, and we probably put a lot of pressure on ourselves and didn't go the way that we wanted.
So now then, do you readjust that thinking? You say, okay, we're in a different situation now. We're basically, I know a draw can get you through with the result of the other game, but you go out there and say, right, we win this game, we're in the knockout rounds. Is that basically the way you're thinking?
Yep. It is massive for us. I think it's also, you know, you don't want to look back and regret things. So it's really about giving it your all 100%. And no matter how long you're on the field for it, it's making sure you do your job and you do it well.
We saw you come off the bench, as you say, at half-time. You know, a couple of key moments. Your cross into the path of Jackie Hand as she lets fly with that one first time. Are you thinking, man, it's 1-1, we've got it here?
I know. I think you know, we've had a little talk about that. You know, she's had to take it first time, and it's just unfortunate that it's come off the post, also straight to the goalkeeper. That's when it's kind of like, oh, it's just one of those days. But, you know, those are things that I hope to be able to create on Sunday. And
I'm not sure whether I know you had an injury niggle or something coming into the tournament, didn't you? Are you completely 100% now? You good to go from the first whistle if required?
Yep. I did have a niggle before, but now I'm good to go from the first whistle if she puts me there.
So is the game plan going to be different than it was against either Norway or the Philippines?
Yeah, I think the game plan will be slightly different. Obviously, we're playing a European team, and they are slightly different than the Philippines, for example. But it's really, we still want to play our way, just with little adjustments. And so, yeah, it should be an exciting game. As an attacking player, you know, I want to do a lot of that, and I want us to be on the front foot, and you know, that mentality of making sure that we get stuck into them, and the higher up we win the ball, the better.
If you were to start, if Yitka says, right, you're starting, where do you best fit into like a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2? Where is your best place in that? Because it doesn't seem like there's a natural fit. You're more like you're sitting, you know, you're kind of like a 10 who sits in behind the front two, for example. So where do you fit into this whole thing?
Oh, I'd love that position that you're suggesting. But unfortunately, I'm just a player. So, yeah, I think obviously my qualities, I do like to be on the ball, and I like to create and slip passes through. So wherever I can do that, I think that's where I'm best fit. But yeah, I guess that's up to the coach.
Have you played in Dunedin before at this venue?
No, I've not played at this venue, and I'm excited for a closed stadium. And obviously I've been to Dunedin before, and it's known as, you know, a rowdy student town. So I hope that's there on Sunday.
I'm sure it will be. And, I mean, do you feel still the weight of support of the nation? I mean, after the win over Norway, you know, the whole country caught football fever, really. Is that still the case, even despite what happened in Wellington?
Yeah, we all feel it. We still feel like we've got massive support, and which we're always thankful for, and we really hope that they can get behind us on Sunday and we can finish the job.
Wonderful stuff. Thanks for joining us on Football Fever, Liv. Really appreciate it. That is Liv Chance out of the Football Ferns camp, Switzerland, their opposition. In case you needed reminding, 7 o'clock tomorrow night in Dunedin.
While this podcast takes a halftime break, let's talk about The Greatest Goal, a crowdfunding campaign leaving a legacy for Aotearoa New Zealand as co-hosts of the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023 by asking fans to donate a native tree. Each native tree costs just $10, and whether you donate one or many, you'll be contributing to amazing restoration projects across Aotearoa. Visit treesthatcount.co.nz to donate a native tree and help us score the greatest goal. Looks like we're ready to kick off the second half.
Football Fever with Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen with Trees That Count. Donate a native tree and help us score the greatest goal.
On Football Fever, let's have a look ahead to today's three matches. Cracking game coming up in Wellington tonight in Group G, 7:30 kickoff, Sweden against Italy. This is one of the most fascinating groups for me, Group G. Sweden, Italy, Argentina, South Africa. Now, the draw that we talked about earlier between Argentina and South Africa yesterday means that if there is a winner tonight, if one of these two teams can win, they will go through to the knockout rounds as a result. So Sweden would be favoured to beat Italy. Sweden are third in the world at the moment. Italy a powerhouse, as we know, in the men's game. The women's game is still developing in Italy, but they did have the 1-0 win over Argentina in their first game. So Sweden against Italy in Group G in Wellington from 7:30 tonight, and then we're across to Brisbane. What about this for a blockbuster? 10 o'clock tonight, France against Brazil. France against Brazil. We always, I think about the men's equivalents when we look at these games. And, well, France-Brazil, what they met in the World Cup final, didn't they? In what year was that? 1998 in France, with France winning it. Brazil just so impressive in their first up 4-0 win over Panama. Ari Borges getting a hat-trick in that game, and they scored what is still a contender for goal of the tournament during that game as well. Well, at number 5, France had a slightly inauspicious start by comparison in the tournament. They could only draw with Jamaica, who are 43rd in the world, so they will need to bounce back quickly. France-Brazil tonight from 10, and then just after midnight in Perth, it's Panama against Jamaica. A couple of nations out of the same confederation, two CONCACAF sides colliding, looking for their first ever win at a Women's World Cup. Panama on the wrong end of that loss to Brazil. Jamaica, they'll be buoyed by their 0-0 draw with France. So maybe Jamaica slight favourites in this one just after midnight in Perth tonight. We will wrap all of that action for you on Football Fever tomorrow and have a good preview of tomorrow night's Football Ferns Switzerland clash and all of the different layers of that game and what could be the winning of the game for New Zealand. Bonnie is away, as I say, for the weekend, but back with us on the podcast next week. And we're back tomorrow with that fresh episode dropping into your podcast feed around about the same time tomorrow. Hope you have an excellent Saturday. See you then.
In this post-match review, let's score the greatest goal by donating a native tree to leave a legacy for Aotearoa New Zealand as co-hosts of the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023. Visit treesthatcount.co.nz to donate a native tree for a brighter future.
The Football Fever podcast with Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen with Trees That Count. Donate a native tree and help us score the greatest goal. For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.